Why are we committing economic suicide? That's what I want to talk about. The alternative title is The Day America Made Work Illegal. That's what's happened. Now let's see, why is it that we are doing this? Well, let's go over the facts to give us the context. You know, every year, and this year, the flu was responsible for 12,000 deaths, and it's usually between 10 and 30,000 every year. Did we make work illegal and tell everybody they couldn't leave their home because 10 to 20,000, or in this year, 12,000 people died? No, nobody said anything. And guess what? Trump made that point early on this crisis, early in this crisis. And guess what happened? Oh, the media came down on him like a ton of bricks, that he was insensitive to the few people that were dying from corona. What about the 12,000 that died from the flu? Were they insensitive? Because they didn't say anything then. No, that didn't happen. And with all that pressure, Trump succumbed to the pressure and to the misguided direction by who? The CDC. Who runs the CDC? I think it's a doctor called Fauci. And what did Fauci say about this crisis? That we have to admit that we failed in providing the tests on time. But did Fauci say who was the one that failed? Was it Trump? Or was it the CDC who created some tests that were defective and they had improper requirements? Huh? Well, it was the CDC run by Fauci. And did he accept the blame? No. He didn't say it was his fault. He just said we have to accept the blame and everybody's fault. No, it was his fault. The great Dr. Fauci, who messed up and gave Trump bad advice and mismanaged, as most bureaucrats and bureaucracies do, and as the CDC have been doing for decades. For decades. We can talk about that later. But for decades, they have been mismanaging the requirements, and lots of people die every year because the CDC won't approve drugs on time, and those people are never counted. Fortunately, Trump made some changes, and emergency people can use test drugs, which is just the rational, normal thing to do. So let's go through what's going on here. And these liberal Democrats that are running these bureaucracies like the CDC, well, they've been doing this for years. So what are they going to do? They're always going to focus on just the coronavirus deaths, not everybody else's livelihood and the deaths that occur because so many people are out of work. So this is what's going on in our country. Now, if you want to understand the situation of why so many states have decided to make work illegal and tell everybody they have to stay home, let's go over the states that are doing this. Well, there's New York State, there's California, there's Oregon, there's New Jersey, there's Connecticut, there's Puerto Rico. What do all of these states have in common? Well, they're run by Democrats. What is the main goal of Democrats today? Obviously, they want to get Trump out of office. So, like Bill Maher said 2 years ago, he wished that there would be a recession, and his comrades feel the same way. They wish that there would be a recession. So this is the way to create a recession, a massive work stoppage, And Schumer says, well, the government will send you checks to protect the workers. The government can't send enough checks to protect the workers if the companies they work for go bankrupt, which they will. Then the employees will have no paycheck. And the government can't print their way out of this. If they could, if you just do helicopter money and create prosperity, then there's no problem. The government can just throw money from helicopters, literally, and people grab it, and everybody will be fine. No, Schumer, that's not true. Guess what the truth is? The only thing that creates the value of the money that you use is work. Work by productive American citizens that make that dollar worthwhile. People want the dollars because they can buy the goods and services that are produced by American workers. But if the American workers are not working, then the value of the dollar goes down. And so you can have all these dollars, but what you can buy is worth much less. And so, many countries have tried this before, Zimbabwe, Argentina, hyperinflation. And you can't get something from nothing. There's only one thing that creates value in the dollar, and it's work. If you make work illegal, like all these states are doing, for the purpose I mentioned just a while ago, well, what will happen? The economy will be destroyed, and then they will try to pin the blame on Trump for the economic catastrophe that will occur. That's the game plan. And so, unfortunately, Trump succumbed to the pressure. Now, why is it that great medicines like hydroxychloroquine are not with erythromycin? That combination has already proved to have a great result. But what did Fauci say about it? Oh, it's just anecdotal. Doesn't matter. We need a complete survey and test trials that run for a year and 6 months or whatever. No, you don't. It's ridiculous. Why does he do that? Well, what does he care about Trump's future and the economy? Zip. He doesn't care about that. He's just trying to control the coronavirus to flatten the curve. So, who the hell cares about the curve? And by the way, if the facts about this are that 50% of the people that get it, the young people, they don't get any symptoms. They're asymptomatic. Another 40% get sick, like if they had a flu or a bad cold. And just 10% of people have to go to the hospital or have problems. So the obvious solution is to protect those 10% of the people that have problems. The older people, the ones that have pre-existing conditions, the ones that have diabetes or they have heart disease or they have lung problems, well, they should be protected. And if you wanted to have a program that reduced the deaths, that's what you had to do. Separate those people. Institute program to separate them from the young people that have the coronavirus. Old age homes, in hotels, wherever. Don't make work illegal, or have them living by themselves, or separate them from the younger people. That's what they had to do. They didn't have to make work illegal unless their purpose was to destroy the economy. And that's the purpose of all these Democrats that are doing this. That's what's going on here. This is just what Bill Maher said. We need a recession badly. Now, you think they're going to be able to pin this on Trump? Well, it could be no. because people will say, well, what fault is it his? Oh, what? The buck stops with the president. No. If some goddamn Democrat bureaucrat like Fauci says, uh, tells him something, and he has to rely on on him. He doesn't have any technical knowledge. He's not a scientist. He doesn't know what the facts are about this, and so he's easily misled. But Fauci didn't accept the blame. He just spread the blame. It's all of our fault. We have to accept it. He says, we did a bad job. We didn't do it. Was he that did a bad job, and he didn't do it. So anyway, I think that this is just a horrible public policy, and it's so obvious that we have done misguided public policy and not focused on where the actual risks are. So I hope this message gets out, and I hope Trump, and it looks like it, he's onto something, prevails in getting these medicines, the one I just mentioned, hydroxychloroquine, uh, chloroquine with erythromycin, together, they have proved to be effective. Now, Fauci said it was just anecdotal. No, it wasn't anecdotal. It was a study, a small study, but the results were impressive. It wasn't a blind study. No, it wasn't. But viruses can't be controlled by what you think is going to happen. If that were the case, then nobody would get sick. Viruses have a biological effect regardless of whether you know you got a medicine or you didn't know you got a medicine. So the obvious thing to do here is to use drugs that have been tested already, and we know what the side effects are, and there's some side effects, but they're much better than dying from corona. And by the way, the reason why these older people get sick and sometimes die from corona is because their immune system overreacts and creates inflammation in their lungs. And then they're on ventilators or they don't get enough help there, they can die. That's right. So that's what you have to focus on. Medicines that prevent that tremendous inflammation that uh, makes the lungs not be able to operate properly. Anyway, let me know what you think about this big medical hoax that we're suffering from, and the path towards economic suicide that our country is on. And since I hadn't heard anybody actually explain all this, I decided, well, I have to do my patriotic duty to go ahead and do that. Of course, every life is important and valuable. But let me tell you, you can't say that a young person's life is just as valuable as an older person's life. When they have a few years to live and they're in the older category, well, they have to run the risks that older people have. And they die of this thing or the other thing. And I'm all for trying to protect them from risk. But you can't kill the economy and make everybody suffer. And by the way, the only thing that counts in life isn't whether you live or die, it's how much you suffer. And the total amount of suffering from an economic collapse is incalculable. Incalculable. Got that word out wrong. Anyway, let me know what you think. Take care.